to talk again, I'm kind of doing my particular thoughts geared towards the LDS community, and not to say that it can't be helpful for anybody else, but it's kind of with that culture and specific background in mind. So I wanted to talk today a little bit. Gosh, my mind's all over the place a little bit in my head right now about this, but I kind of titled this kind of finding boundaries for, um, through sorry, I titled this Finding Healing Through Finding Your Own Identity, but I really could put into this idea that we need to find boundaries somewhat. So I wanted to specifically talk about a way that I have found that is helpful for me. Now, within the LDS community, one of the things I love is that we're very community oriented, very geared towards reaching out to each other, trying to create a collective sense of self and identity. I have found that to be incredibly healing in and of itself. A difficulty with that is as we move through trying to create our own self-identity, particularly as we go through teenagerhood and into early adulthood and actually on, as we're trying to create self-identity within this massive collective identity, it can get really tricky when things start to kind of just bump heads a little bit, or something that you feel inside yourself isn't fitting within this massive group collective identity. So with the idea in mind that I actually find value in that group identity, I feel like some way that I've heard of describing this is that we have two needs, and I think this is from Schnarch, who's a psychologist, but then also Jennifer Finlayson Fife, who talks about this. There is this need for us to be ourselves, right? Have individual needs and desires and be able to express ourselves, but then there's also our need to belong. And so I feel like these are definite ways that we find, or difficulties that we find within the LDS community. So, introduction there. A little bit about boundaries, because essentially what I have found I've needed to do is create boundaries, both for myself, because really I can't make other people do what I want them to do, or think what I want them to think, or be what I want them to be. So really the boundaries are not for other people. They're not for me to say, I need you to be like this. It's for me to say, here's how I will think, act, believe in a particular situation. But I also have found it to be a little bit jarring to talk about creating shields or boundaries, because sometimes it's good for me. Sometimes it's good for me to be placed in a situation that's uncomfortable. Sometimes it's good for me to be around people who think, well, it's always good for me. It's good for me to be in a position or with other people who think differently than me, which again, I think is another beautiful thing, difficult thing, but beautiful thing in belonging to a group of people that are working to commit themselves to doing that. But in either case, sometimes we need to be uncomfortable. Sometimes we need to push boundaries on ourselves. So for me, what I decided to do within my own creative brain is, as I contemplated the idea of shields or boundaries, I thought more about this idea of bowls. So this is what I made, because I was doing this with a group that we were doing something artistic. I made a bowl. We were supposed to create shields, but I liked this better because, first off, I don't know how well you can see this. This is a bowl that I put pictures, drawings, and ideas that specifically were me, my identity, how I found myself. So some of the things you'll see in here is there's Christ in the center. I have a picture of the temple. I actually really do while I feel myself, I push boundaries a bit, I also highly value order and structure sometimes. So Lady Wisdom, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Lady Wisdom. This is a picture of our Heavenly Parents with their family. I have a picture of a tree. Highly value the symbolism of a tree. I'm not going to go into detail about what all these mean to me, but I just thought I'd show you some examples of things that I put for my own sense of self. And then this is a picture actually of the First Relief Society sisters giving a healing blessing, because back when the church first started, that was something that they did. So in either case, these were all things that I put specific meaning to. Oh, and I forgot that outside of this is a picture of a man. I don't think you can see it very well. It's made with reclaimed wood, the whole entire picture, and he's looking up to a light. I loved the idea that it was made with reclaimed wood. So I could talk a lot about the meaning of these for me, But the point is, you should find for yourself what you hold on to as your authentic self. Now, I did this as a bowl instead of a shield because I know sometimes I need things that I don't always feel comfortable with. I need things that I need to sometimes examine and look at, but it's still really painful and still really hard sometimes. So I put them in a bowl. And these things that I know I need to examine and look at. And I put them in a bowl that's surrounded with my identity, right? So I stick them here, and I will take it down and I'll look through it. And I'll try and, metaphorically speaking, try and look at how these pieces fit together with me, who I think I am, or who I know myself to be, and try and figure out how these may fit together. And I don't want to discard it. Sometimes I do, but sometimes I don't really want to necessarily discard what's in this bowl of thoughts, ideas. But I don't necessarily feel like I'm always capable of dealing with it. So I put it in this bowl and use this to contemplate how things that are more difficult, or people that are more difficult, or life circumstances that are more difficult, how I can help them fit within my own sense of self. So that's the way I work at both creating boundaries and also allowing things to kind of push me a little bit, because I know I need to be pushed, even to create more boundaries. But ultimately, we do need to identify a sense of self, a sense of our own internal sense of self as a part of a collective group, particularly within the church. So this is how I do it. Just thought I'd show that, and really hope that people who are moving into situations where their own sense of individual is butting up against their sense of collective self, that they may be able to find answers and ways to work through that, because I think it actually is a very difficult process. So this is the way I heal with finding my own self-identity as new concepts and ideas, and even the collective group ideas kind of have to butt up against each other. So